All right, folks, today is going to be the last video ever that I shoot from my urban homestead here in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. Now, I've been shooting videos here, doing my live streams here for, I think, almost around 7 years. It's where this has been my home base for a very long time. I established my urban farming business here, Green City Acres. I had both of my children born here, natural births at home, delivered with my bare hands, and of course my wife, the major participant in that. And yeah, it's kind of sad to see it go. But in this video, I wanted to just show you guys and explain to you why I let my garden get so messy this year. And it's all about succession and moving my garden to our new homestead. You can hear ambulances non-stop here in Kelowna as people have adverse reactions to this injection. Crazy times. Partly why we're getting out of here. But so let's go through my garden and take a look at some of the stuff here and explain to you why I did what I did. Okay, let's start right here on the forest floor of the food forest. What the hell is all this? This is, I believe these are apples. All these wood chips came from apple trees. I think it was either apple or cherry. But I just let things go wild. There was also willow. There was willow chips and apple and cherry chips in here. And look at this. They're sprouting up right from the chips. So I will be pulling out all of those, putting them in pots, and then taking them up to my new property, where I plan to propagate this whole food forest a bunch of times. So look at this. Willow. Willow just growing right out of the ground from the chips. See, if I was going to stay here longer, I would have been thinning all this as I went. But because I'm leaving, I'm kind of doing a favor for the new owners and for myself. And I will be cleaning out the garden, thinning it so that it's not too hairy for them. And I'll be propagating a ton of this stuff. Look at this, I got more willow coming out here. Perhaps my favorite thing to transplant are strawberries. And you can see the entire food forest floor of my semi-raised beds in this food forest are just strawberries. And they make an absolute incredible ground cover. And the amazing thing about that is that you can propagate them and transplant them every year. So see, even here, where they're not supposed to be, they've rooted themselves into the wood chips. So it's going to be very easy to just take a lot of these out and take them with us. Also cleaning things up for the new owners, which is just a good thing to do. I've got, where's some other stuff that's kind of crazy? Well, I'm going to be able to propagate a bunch of the branches just of all these. These are Saskatoon berries. I'll be able to propagate and take those. My sea buckthorn has gone absolutely gangbusters, and these trees really just self-propagate. They pop out of the ground. So I'll be able to pop all those out, put those in pots. That's an easy one because then you don't even have to do any technical propagation. You can just pull it out by the roots and put it in a pot and it will take off very quickly. Whereas some of the other stuff I'm going to have to do some propagation. So here's one where I let this, what is this tree here? You know what this is? Oh, this is my plum. Thank you, Violet. This is a plum tree, and one of the branches fell over, but it stayed alive. And so I'm going to keep this alive, and we're going to reroot that into a pot and essentially take this tree with us, also thinning it out for the new owners. I could probably do that with that same offshoot branch there. I could clone that and propagate that one. What else can we look at here in the food forest? Oh yeah, over here. So I've just been starting to clean up my garden beds. Okay, here's a great one. The compost that I buy often has walnuts in it. I don't know why, but it does. So I let this walnut get nice and big and healthy, and I'm going to pull that out and put it in a pot and take it up to the new property. They've been weeds for me for years, but I'm going to be taking a few of these with me. Now my raspberries have just gone crazy as well. So this is another one that will be super easy to propagate. They just send up shoots. So I'll just be digging out some of these shoots and putting them in pots and taking them with us. The grapes, these ones in particular, I'll just have to propagate. I'll have to just cut off some branches to thin them out, and then put some rooting hormone in those and just put them in a pot and propagate them. Now let's go over and look at my goji berries. My blackberries have just gone crazy, and these are going to be an easy one to propagate and take, and they just kind of reproduce themselves like crazy. And this goji berry here, I have moved this goji berry 3 times. I moved it, I had it at one of my urban properties, and then it was called our flagship plot. If you go back in my older urban farming vlogs, you'll see tons of videos shot there. That site has actually now been redeveloped into a home. And so these actually grew originally there, and this is my favorite goji berry. I have 3 varieties here. I don't know what this one is, but you can see I've got raspberries popping up in the understory. But I moved this 3 times, or twice. I took it from the urban homestead, and then I replanted it in my front yard here, and then I let that grow, and then I moved it, and then I put it here. So it was transplanted twice, and they just grow like crazy. One thing I've learned about goji berries over the years is you pretty much only need 1 stem. So in the fall, you can trim all this hairy stuff and just get it down to 1 branch, and that branch could be 4 feet tall. And in a way, what's an ideal thing to do is to get them higher off the ground, because they do get quite bushy and they get in the way. I'm sitting here on the ground showing you this. You can train that 1 branch to get higher and higher every year, and then you prune it right back to that stem, and then it will just bush out like a little palm tree. And that's kind of what I've done here. It's still quite hairy up top, but next year, if the next owners, and I'm going to make a little video for them to show them how to do this, if they just let this 1 stem, prune it back to 1 stem, and then next year it'll get higher and higher, and so that it won't be in the way. And it kind of gets in the way by the end of summer here. It kind of blocks this thoroughfare, which is a little annoying. But if we get it higher and higher, then it'll be less in the way. And so I'm going to thin this out for them because it's getting too hairy down here. So I'm probably just, there's 3 here, which is totally unnecessary. I'll just dig 1 of these out, maybe even 2 of them. They really only need 1 because it gets so huge. And then I'll just replant those at the new property. This blackberry has just gone crazy as well, so I'll be propagating that and bringing that up to the new spot. So coming out into the front garden, I've done quite a bit of harvesting. I still have more to do, and actually one thing I'm doing, I just cut the greens off these potatoes, but before I talk about some of the plants I'm going to pull here, let me explain what I'm doing with our storage crops this year, because my garden at the new homestead is not established yet at all. I've got to build those raised beds. That's probably a project for the fall and winter, and then in the springtime we'll be filling them with compost and hitting the ground running. But I've got a lot of stuff to harvest and that I want to take with me, and so what I'm going to be doing, so here's a bunch of beets. I've still got another half bed of carrots to harvest. I got this whole bed of potatoes to harvest. What I'm going to be doing this year is called a sand storage system, or that's what I call it, and I'm going to be filling totes with sand, put a base layer of sand in, and then lay vegetables down, space them out a little bit, cover them with 1 inch of sand, and then do another layer. So I'm going to be storing a bunch of our vegetables from the garden this year so that we have them to eat all winter, because I don't have the capacity up there like I do down here, because I would actually be able to just store a lot of these in the ground all winter, put a little low tunnel over it, and you've seen me do that for years. I can harvest beets, carrots, even potatoes I can harvest fairly far into the winter doing that. And so this year I don't have the ability to do that, so that's why we're going to store things the way we are. So hey, one thing I want to show you here. I did an experiment this year with potatoes, and I planted these potatoes. You can see there's kind of 2 rows here. I cut the greens off because I'm going to harvest them. And I did 2 rows of potatoes, and you know when you store your potatoes over the winter and in the springtime they just send out tons of shoots, and then they'll get to a point where the potato pretty much turns to mush, and then the shoots will be really long. What I discovered this year is you can actually plant just the shoots and you will get full-on potatoes just as you normally would. I made 2 trenches here, and then I planted just the shoots, and I just laid the shoots down thick everywhere, and I've got a really good yield of potatoes here. So that worked. And okay, so coming to my grapes. I did this intentionally knowing that I would thin these out. So I planted 5 grape plants 3 feet apart. Now that's a pretty dense spacing for grapes. Most guys would go a little bit wider than that, and if you're gonna grow them this way and really verticalize them, doing it at 6-foot spacing is more optimal. And so I planted these intentionally so that I would thin them out. And when I planted these, I didn't think I would be leaving here, but I thought that I would take the second ones out and put them in the backyard. But now I'm just going to take them because they're too hairy. It's too thick. And so I'm going to pull out this one, and then transplant them. I also put did some of these little ball pots for propagating, and so far they haven't really worked that well. So hopefully we get something, but I propagated a number of those branches in hopes that they put some roots down, and then I can plant them somewhere else. Now it's a little tight in here because the front of my property is kind of diagonal on the street, and so the corner here is shorter than the corner over there. So this little spot is quite nebulous because I've got this pea trellis, this bean trellis here, and then I've got these goji berries in here. Now these goji berries are also way too thick. They're like 3 feet apart here. They're just way too thick. So I'm gonna thin these out as well. That'll be good for the new owners because it's so hairy back here. It's hard to maintain, and somebody who's not as an experienced gardener as me would look at this and just go, oh my god, this is just crazy. So I'm gonna thin those out. I'm also gonna thin out some more of these raspberries in here. I've got another couple days of work in here just doing propagation, which is gonna, be fun, a little tedious, but it's got to be done. Like, look how hairy it is here between my bean trellis and these raspberries and goji berries. It's just too thick. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, folks, well, that is the last video I'm doing at the urban homestead here. It's been quite a journey. Just give you a little, before I wrap it up here, I'll give you a little backstory on this property and how I came to live here and do all the great things that we've done here. So about almost 10 years ago, when I was around the beginning of my urban farming career, probably in year 2, maybe it was year 2, the owner of this property at the time was a friend of mine, and she heard about my urban farming business and the pedal powered stuff, and that I was using lawns and to put in my urban farms and all that. So she was interested in having me use this property. And so for 1 year, I think this was my second year of farming, I was using the backyard where my greenhouse is and the food forest is and all that now to just do the urban farm. I had a small high tunnel back there that was 50 feet long and 12 feet wide, and then and that was actually, why don't we go back there and just take a look. So none of this was as it was. This house was just like my neighbor's house here, with that kind of glass, weird stucco stuff. And this deck wasn't here, none of this stuff was here. This greenhouse wasn't here, the Paso Solar greenhouse that you've seen me make dozens, if not hundreds of videos from. And in this backyard, all it was a small high tunnel here, and then I had 30-inch beds all in the back here. And at the time, the landowner let me use the yard, and so I used it for a year. So I wasn't living here or anything, I was just using this backyard to farm like all my other urban properties that I did for 10 years. And then a year after that, the renters that were in this house moved out, and so she kindly asked me if I was interested in renting it. And I said, absolutely, I would love to, that would be great. And I also said, hey, would you mind if I move my base of operations here? And so I did that. And you can go back in my videos years ago and you can see all this play out. In the carport of this property, that's where I had my first post-harvesting area. So I had a walk-in cooler there, I had a washing station, salad spinners, and greens drying station, and all that in the carport. And then after 1 year of doing that, then then it was 2 years of doing that. I got pretty comfortable with the rental. Then she let me do more infrastructure stuff here. So at that time, I made this post-harvesting station between the greenhouse. It was between the high tunnel and the house, and I had all my stuff back there. And you can go back in videos 6-7 years ago and see that. And then I believe it was 2 years of living and renting in this house. Then she said, hey, well, we need to sell the house. And so it was tough because I didn't have any money. And, you know, anybody who runs a small business knows that you declare low income because that's just what makes sense. You have a lot of write-offs. And so I wasn't able to get a mortgage, and I didn't even want to get a mortgage. I hated the idea of getting a mortgage. And but I did, because I just looked at the numbers and looked at the time that would take me to uproot, move my base of operations and all that. It just wasn't worth it. So I basically went through 5 months, I think it was 5 months, of trying to get a mortgage. And I went through at least half a dozen different mortgage brokers where, you know, you have to spill your guts and do all this paperwork, because if your stated income on your government BS is low, they're not going to lend to you. And so I did get somebody to lend to me eventually, and I had to pay an exorbitant amount of insurance to do that. But I eventually got a mortgage. We moved into this house, and from there I started to do more stuff here. And it was about a year after that where I built the Paso Solar greenhouse, and you've seen dozens of videos about that. And yeah, from there, you know, I built my entire career here. My family was here. Everything about this property was a stepping stone to get me to where I am today. So I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity, and I know the new owners are going to love it. I wish we could have kept this property. I kind of wish in a perfect world that we could have just kept this place and then had our new place and just kind of lived back and forth. But the way things are going right now, and the fact that we have young kids that are, you know, really dependent on us and need us, we just decided to just sell it and go. Also, we were fortunate enough to be in a position where we bought our new property a year before we sold this, and so we've spent a year up at our new place. You know, we were only there 50% of the time, say, but we've seen how being in nature has affected our kids in a really positive way. It's quite amazing. It's actually a day and night difference when you see how kids behave. I got my daughter behind me poking me with a stick. When you see the way kids behave in nature, surrounded by forests, flora and fauna, a beautiful view, clean air, and then on the flip side, you know, not being exposed to any of the toxic things that are in a city. And so when we saw that, we really realized that that's where we needed to be for this journey in our life. And like I said, this place was a real stepping stone for us, and you know, this home is EMF protected, and it's a beautiful home, and I know it's going to serve the new people that are moving here well. And you know, I don't think anybody would have bought this property if they weren't keen about gardening, because, you know, there's really no space in this property that isn't dedicated to growing food. And so yeah, they're gonna love it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So kind of just in closing, because I don't do a lot of videos on YouTube anymore, and you could be watching this in two places. I post everything to fromthefield.tv, but I do also post the odd video to YouTube, like this one. And if you haven't seen or heard from me a lot on YouTube lately, it's because I have not been able to stream there, and I can't explain why. It doesn't really matter. But I've been streaming on Telegram, and that is the best place to stay up to date with me on a regular basis if you're not a member of fromthefield.tv, which I would highly encourage you to join if you haven't looked at it yet. I mean, I have thousands of videos up there now. Everything I've ever done is up on fromthefield.tv, including all the other great content that's made by some of the other awesome content creators up there. So you want to go there. But my streams are still on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. They're still happening at that time. They're just on Telegram. And I might try to stream on YouTube again. We'll see. I haven't been able to do it. So we've just kind of adapted, and we've been streaming on Telegram. And if you watch the Telegram streams live, there's video. But if you're listening to the recording, and I also do post those into my Telegram channel, then they're just audio. I haven't figured out how to post the video recordings in Telegram yet. Might figure that out soon, but I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, like I always have. Kind of adapt and figure things out as I go. So if you want to follow me on Telegram and listen to my streams, go to t.me/SHTFfarmer. That's my Telegram channel. I'll also put a link to it in the show notes. And it's kind of it's the only real social media. Is it social media? It's not quite social media, but it's the only thing like that I use now. You know, I still have an Instagram account which my team posts content from the field up to, but I don't use it anymore. I've deleted Facebook. I don't use Twitter. I don't use any of that anymore. The only place that I post stuff is Telegram. So it's kind of stream of conscious stuff. I post interesting links to things that I'm observing. It's not exclusively about farming at all. It's actually hardly about farming. It's more just about shit hitting the fan and me sharing my thoughts on current events. But it's also where we host the live streams for now. So if you want to check out those live streams, again, Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at t.me/SHTFfarmer on Telegram. And I hope to see some of you guys there. And we do a call-in show on there. So it's kind of actually better than YouTube because people can call in. And there's a way to do that. If you join one of those streams, I'll explain how that works. There is a way to do super chats just like there was in YouTube. We've set up privately, which is way better. And yeah, hope to see some of you guys there. And yeah, this is the last time you'll see a video from me here at this property. Okay, take care, folks.